Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and I am joined for this week's episode by Harry Jobson, as is quite common now. The usual.
I've returned. It's been like a week or two.
It's been a little while, yeah. And for this week's episode, we are going to be talking about SpongeBob, sort of in a general sense, but we're going to mainly focus on the movies, SpongeBob SquarePants movie, SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, and the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, to tie into the release of the new SpongeBob movie on Netflix coming out next week. It's not like it's like a spin-off though. It's called Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. So it's like vaguely connected. They are working on a new SpongeBob, like a proper SpongeBob movie, to come out next year, apparently. But yeah, that's sort of why we're talking about SpongeBob SquarePants. So I feel like, Harry, for you, I mean, I'm gonna make the assumption that SpongeBob was a part of your childhood. I feel like for a lot of people,
A massive part of my childhood. It was weird because we didn't have, like, in Australia, for anyone who's not listening in this country, we have Foxtel, which is our cable television.
Yeah.
You pay for it, and it's you get premium channels like Nickelodeon, Disney.
The prices are ridiculous, though. Like, I've looked at the prices for Foxtel, and it's insane how much it costs. Like, or at least certain packages of Foxtel, yeah.
Or at least I didn't get that till I was like 12. And at that point, you're not watching SpongeBob, but I was. I love SpongeBob. And it seems to be I love it in its like purest. It's just, I love the world. It's so cozy. And the original SpongeBob film was huge for me. I can almost quote that line for line. I love it. And yeah, I mean, it probably, like, I couldn't say the same for my siblings. It could have been an isolated thing for me, but I love SpongeBob.
Yeah, SpongeBob was a childhood thing for me. Yeah, my oldest sister, she had Foxtel on her TV, and so when we'd go and we'd visit her, because when she moved away, we'd go and visit her, and we'd watch. My sister and I, we'd wake up 7, 8 a.m. or whatever. My sister and her husband, they'd still be asleep, and my sister and I, we just pop on the TV. We just pop on Nickelodeon or whatever. So we watched, SpongeBob SquarePants was obviously one of them, but we watched like iCarly, Sam and Cat, like all the Nickelodeon sort of early 2000, like late 2000s, early 2010s orientated shows. So I haven't seen like a full episode of the TV show in years. Like, I've seen bits and pieces, and the movie, to touch on the movie, because I hadn't seen the movie for like the entire movie for the first time, like until like 2 years ago or something. I hadn't seen it all. I do remember I caught the end of it on TV once, when they're at the end of the movie, where they're like on land and they're like they're drying up basically, and they become like a literal just a sponge and a dried up starfish or whatever. So I saw like the last like 10-15 minutes of that movie, but I hadn't seen the full movie. But then recently, a couple years ago, I watched the film fully in its entirety, and to specifically talk about the first movie, I really like it. I think it's a really, really good film. I think it captures the essence of the TV show really well, but makes it expand very well to a feature length. Which is sort of the worry with TV shows sometimes, I feel like, when you're taking a TV show and bringing it to a film format, you are sort of changing the nature of it, like with South Park or Beavis and Butthead or
Simpsons,
or animated, or Futurama as well, like animated sitcoms. How do you translate that to a film? And I think in the case of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, it does it very well, or at least I certainly think it does.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Look, I'm just going to touch on how iconic this film is for a second. Because,
Yeah.
oh my god. What are the beer, boys? Mustard or ketchup? Like, that's, like, yeah. But it's still one of those, it's the era of films I grew up with and what I identify with. Because
Yeah.
especially being in Australia, let alone regional Australia, mate,
Mm.
that was the best the Video Easy could do. Like, it was the best we could illegally download. It wasn't like things don't come to Australia. Like, not at the
Oh,
time
it's
anyway. Now
crazy.
with
It is
digital,
crazy. It's I really like it. In fact, it's on my list of my 500 favorite animated films. So let me just find my placement of it.
but to
Because
me, it also,
it's really
and just
good.
while you are finding that,
Mm.
it feels like a SpongeBob episode, just like a really long one. I think it does that really well.
Yeah,
But
it does. Yeah, it feels like you could do this story in 20 minutes or whatever. You're not.
it's just pure SpongeBob. The David Hasselhoff stuff, the the it just all like the King Neptune and his crown, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed like, and it was sort of considered the last hurrah of at least Steven Hillenburg for his time
Yeah,
on the
I
show at
don't
that
know
point.
what the. Yeah, I'm aware that the creator of SpongeBob he left after like the first, like he did the first 3 seasons or
Four
whatever, and he
seasons,
4
three or
seasons, and
four
then he
seasons,
left.
and then did the film.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm not like look, I don't keep up with SpongeBob. I'm not like familiar with the show's history, but I'm aware that
Lacking,
after
man. No.
after he left, the show sort of started to become bad. It sort of was like very good for like the first 4-ish seasons, and then sort of post him, like after he left, it was sort of like, okay, this is a bit bad
But
now.
that happens. That happens with
Yeah.
shows. I mean,
So I'm just looking here. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie, 37th on my list of 100 favorite animated films, which I think is quite a respectable placement for it. It's in between Moana at 38 and How to Train Your Dragon at 36. So I think that's
wow, if
pretty.
that's the
pretty
30s, I struggle to imagine your 10. Yeah, we all have
But yeah,
that.
SpongeBob SquarePants movie. I was aware of it. I'm aware of the song, the Goofy Goober song. I'm aware of the bit where SpongeBob. It's like at the end of the movie, and he's like powering up. I guess like he's
Oh, the guitar solo. The fact that
yeah.
that is the climax of the film and the final battle, and then like you've got such cool visuals to go with that. Oh
Yeah,
man.
it takes advantage of the medium and the fact that also this is going to be a movie. Like I think now, because I think streaming is kind of a problem at times, because a lot of movies based on TV shows are just going to sort of go straight to streaming now, I feel like. And I feel like it's like this
Yeah.
would be so great to see in the cinema, because it just like there's like it allows you there's something about like there's like seeing stuff in the cinema is the best way to see films, in my opinion. But with streaming, it's like, well, you're not going to be you're making film straight to streaming movies, and it's just like a problem to me, because it's like
Yeah.
I'm not
But here's
I'm not fundamentally against streaming per se. I just think that like
I think we should go back to. I reckon there should be a legal buffer period. I think if you're going to have a feature film and it's going to have a cinematic release, it should have a cinematic release and then legally have to not be allowed to be uploaded to any online streaming services until like a month after. What that'll
yeah, I
do, or
mean,
at least 2 months after, that'll drive people back in the cinema. But hey,
but it's like you're not going to get films based on TV shows in the cinema anymore. Like it's going to go straight to streaming. It's going to and like that's just a problem, because it's like, well, why are we But yeah, I think the future of films is just like it's going to basically be streaming beside like massive blockbusters, honestly. And I'm not like I don't, the cinematic experience doesn't do a whole lot for me now, because at home with home TVs, it's basically as good in some cases. Home, plus I can pause it if I need to. I can, I'm not dealing with other people. Like I can be more immersed in it at home. Then yeah, no. But it's just sort of like cinemas on the whole. I don't really miss going to the cinema that much. Like I haven't gone that much this year because first of all, there's nothing out that I'm really interested in, and it's also like films go in cinemas and then they're gone in like 3 weeks. So it's like
And cinemas used
I
to
can't even.
be. There used to be like a night out. They'd have arcade machines there, like a claw machine with chocky lollies in it. Always big, awesome cardboard cutouts of the latest feature film. Like great
Yeah.
snack selection. The prices weren't that crazy when like I was young,
Mm.
and now like going to the cinema just to watch my favorite film, just almost like a chore. Not like a chore. I know I can wait, but it's not nearly as fun. It's just it's expensive, but you want to watch, the latest.
It is interesting to look at, yeah, just the evolution of cinemas and films, I guess, because it's like because this upcoming SpongeBob film, which we're tying this episode into, is going straight to Netflix, no fanfare, no nothing, and it'll just sort of be like it's just another film on the conveyor belt. It's sort of like
Which is
films
crazy because
used.
the SpongeBob film, at least the original SpongeBob SquarePants film, stood alone for like a decade.
Yeah. And SpongeBob is like a massive IP as well. Like people love SpongeBob. I knew people in high school they had SpongeBob like that on their laptop. Their wallpaper was SpongeBob. They talk about SpongeBob. They enjoy SpongeBob. And that's great. It was like, why are we just dumping stuff on streaming services now with no fanfare? It's like I don't know, just the way consuming content has changed. TV shows will have new seasons out, and you don't even know that until like they've been out for a week. I was talking to a mate
Yeah,
recently, and like Cobra Kai, the new season of that started up. The first few episodes of that came out. He didn't even know. Like he literally asked me like, when did that happen? I'm like, it happened like 3 days ago. It's just this weird world we're in of like, why should I care about movies if like stuff just sort of getting put out with no fanfare behind it? Why should I care? Which is a very sort of depressing statement to make. To be like, why should I care about this medium that I have a lot of love and passion for when it's all just
yeah,
gonna be just sort of put out? And I think, and of course, I think there are still good films being made. I'm not of the perspective that like no good films are being made, because I think that's ridiculous too. I think there's like I think there's a way, like, because I think some people are like, oh, films are just all shit now, and it's like I don't think that's true. I think there are good films being made. Whether it's from big Hollywood films to sort of smaller indie films. Like it's not like the film. There aren't good films. It's just like I wish I was more invested in films. Right now, this is completely irrelevant to talk about SpongeBob specifically.
yeah.
I think this goes for all three of the films. I think they all look very nice, like in terms of the animation. I think they're all very beautifully animated. I think so anyway. I really hand drawn animation. I really like. I love all animation styles. 2D, 3D, stop motion, whatever. But something about 2D animation, it just looks really good. Like it looks timeless. You know, like hand
Yeah.
drawn
No, I
animation.
agree. I feel like, and especially the third film, but we'll get to that. I feel like newer animation styles can become incredibly dated even a year in advance. Whereas,
Yeah.
again, yeah, hand drawn. Like I go back and I can watch this SpongeBob film tonight again and be like not have one problem. It looks genuinely great. Some of like the great artistic moments when he's in the like the Goofy Goober bar and he looks all like disheveled and
Yeah.
like washed up and hungover from ice cream.
Yeah.
Waiter, like I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
it.
2D animation will stand the test of time, whereas
But
3D animation is very hit or miss.
SpongeBob also had such a specific animation style, It it
Yeah.
like the Krabby Patty always looked weirdly ultra realistic.
Yeah, there's some moments I've noticed in the films and in bits of the TV show where like it does look different. Like there'll be some like close-up shots of specific things and they look very different to the other animated stuff, which I mean I feel like I guess it's pretty common for animation to sort of have moments where it does look a bit different. Like I've noticed that with 2D
Yeah, but
animation.
SpongeBob specifically always treated its animation quite loosely. Like it was always sort of very fluid with what it looked like.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think the film looks great. I again, 2D animation, you can't fault 2D animation. Like it will always look great, whereas 3D animation is sort of a case by case basis. And I find that interesting that yeah, 2D animation will always look great, but through I guess it's the same with like visual effects, like practical
Yeah.
effects will always look perfect or what they will not date, whereas visual effects, CGI can date, and I find that
Yeah, have you ever seen the first Hulk film? Like the 2000 and like yeah, it dates.
the Ang Lee Eric Banner one.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Eric Banner
that's
Hulk film. You don't think CGI
it's
can date? Watch that film.
yeah, it's like okay, here's an example. We saw The Incredibles a few months ago,
Yeah.
and on the whole, I think it does look very good, and it didn't date too badly, but there were moments, and I guess early Pixar, there are moments of sort of earlier Pixar films where
Especially
it
because
does
this was
look
like the
dated.
first feature film that really centered around like human looking characters.
Yeah, and that's
It was
sort
like
of yeah. I
Monsters
mean,
Inc. and stuff, but
yeah, Monsters Inc. is monsters. Finding Nemo was fish. Toy
Toy
Story
Story
was
was
toys. Bugs
toys.
Life was bugs. Yeah, so there was human characters, but they
Cars
weren't
stuff,
like
yeah.
protagonists. So it's like, and that's the thing. A lot of earlier Pixar animation, on the whole, does look pretty good. Like you can tell, like oh, it's clearly older. It's not as smooth and as it's a bit more blocky and older. It doesn't look as smooth as like more recent Pixar films do. But it's like especially when you get to people, it's like, oh, that has not aged specifically well. But it also is comes with the territory. But even 3D animation now looks some 3D animation looks really bad. Like I watched Wish recently, the Disney film, which looked abysmally awful. Like it was so terribly animated because it was like 3D animation but trying to emulate 2D, and it's like, what do you just do 2D animation or do 3D animation? Like, don't try and do this weird mix and match of both because I'm like all for 2D animation. I think 2D animation is um yeah, this is just fantastic and won't date in any
No, I
way.
agree.
And I think like I because the second and third SpongeBob movies, they've got a lot of CGI animation in there, and they look good. I think they look good, but I think there's a possibility in a few years' time, I might look at that animation and be like, that's not as great now. I mean, comparing it to more recent animated films like Puss in Boots 2 and the Spider-Verse films, which are fantastically animated and they look amazing, I do feel like even animated films from like the last few years might date a bit, and we might get 4 or 5 years down the line, be like, man, that film from 2020 kind of looks like shit.
Dude, again. But you are absolutely right. It like the animation style, it absolutely like doesn't date nearly as badly as digital animation does.
But yeah, 2D animation is like again, I'm not against 3D animation. It's just like it can date much easier, I think. Um, but anyway, yeah, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Yeah, it's really good. We haven't really talked about the voice cast. Actually, I feel like we should really touch on the actors. Because they've been doing this for a while. I mean, you've got Tom Kenny as SpongeBob,
Yeah.
who
Iconic.
is fantastic. Gives a very great performance. SpongeBob is a character who he is this very inherently likable character, but it never becomes massively annoying. I feel like when I watch stuff with characters who are just so incredibly likable, they can at times just be annoying because it's like, okay, I get what you're doing, but can we just, can we stop? Because this is not funny or charming or likable. It's just annoying. But I think SpongeBob does a very good job of not being annoying, or at least I think so. Um, that like I don't
I
find
agree.
SpongeBob as a character annoying.
Like, he does have this. I mean, his voice, his tone is purposefully supposed to be annoying, but I still don't
Yeah,
think him as a like, especially him in this film. He's such a great, like, he has such a great sort of motivation for the film. It is
yeah,
so him. It's so, like, it's like a buddy. It's a buddy road trip film. This isn't an
yeah,
anime. Like, I don't like, you ask me the genre. It's buddy road trip comedy. The
yeah,
medium is
yeah.
animation, but it's buddy road trip comedy. Like,
Mm.
it's and yeah, obviously you've got some of, like, genuinely iconic voice actors as well. I mean, like Tom Kenny, like
Hmm.
fucking Bill Fagerback. Bill Fagerback. I can't. I'll
Yeah,
never
I
pronounce his
think
last name
I don't
properly.
I
That
don't think I've
yeah,
ever looked at that name like properly. But yeah,
yeah.
Bill Fagerback as Patrick, which I think he gives a really solid performance.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown as Mr. Krabs, I think is Clancy Brown's a fantastic talent. Like he just has that voice. Like I've seen him in other stuff, and he just has a certain voice of like, oh, he kind of can. Yeah, he just works really
Yeah.
well. I think is like as an actor and just as a voice. Like I don't know, something about his voice. It just works for um animation.
I agree. I I think, obviously, and like, I mean, we've spent the last 40 minutes, probably 20 of that rate, like, ranting about the cinema industry at the moment. Um, but I like the cast, obviously iconic. Again, David Hasselhoff is in this.
Yes.
Like, and it is such an iconic moment, and then you have, and then I'm gonna relay this when we talk about the third film, but it's like a crazy iconic moment and hilarious, and the fact that he played along with it so well and so, like, out of water and unexpected. No pun intended, but it is like the way the film ends. It's so iconically SpongeBob. It's such a great, like, I genuinely, I love this film. It is hilarious. The story is paced really well. It's one of the best comedy movies made. I like, genuinely. And I don't think people give it enough, because, like, the whole premise is hilarious. The fact that he's going to go to
Mm.
Shell City to, one, prove he's a man, and two, like, save Mr. Krabs. Also, he could be the manager. Like, and it was all sort of started because he didn't get manager, but also, like, the entire film being, like, Plankton being the villain. I'm so glad they didn't introduce another character. Just keep it the
Yeah.
antagonist of the series anyway. Make it so it's
Yeah, and
Plan
Because
C. The
Plankton's a
idea that
great
he's
villain as well.
oh, absolutely, and the fact that he's supposed to be this, like, super genius and didn't know that the alphabet ended in Z is, like, I don't know. It's just really funny. I hold this film in very close and high regard. That's
Yeah,
why I was
I'm just looking
so
at
happy to do this episode, because I was like, oh yeah, I have an excuse to watch SpongeBob again. Not that I need one, but I have an excuse to
yeah.
watch the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, which, like, yeah, I think that neither of the two films after this capture anything of the first one. That's not even close.
Yeah. I'm
And
gonna be honest. I don't dislike them that much, but I also don't think I don't think they needed to be made. I get this a lot with films, I feel like, where I'm like, yeah, this is not bad. I like this, but it didn't need to exist. Like if this if these movies didn't exist, I wouldn't see a problem with it. Whereas I'm like, I would miss the first SpongeBob movie because it is very good. Like it's genuinely funny. The songs I really like. It's beautifully animated. It's like it would be. I would be disappointed if it didn't exist because it would be very great. And from my understanding of it, it is sort of the peak of SpongeBob in terms of quality. Like it's kind of like everything afterwards was sort of a bit of a downward trajectory. I mean, I guess because the creator and showrunner left, so it sort of did fall into a bit of a slump after he had left, which it would make sense. You see that with shows, and I feel like with animated sitcoms, you get that a lot too, where like the first few seasons are really good, and then it just sort of starts going downhill. Like Simpsons, on the whole, not as good as it once was. I think can be agreed upon, but shows like Futurama and South Park and Family Guy and that
that are maintained,
which again, I like those shows and everything, and they're still good episodes, but it's like the best stuff is clearly behind them,
absolutely.
But I on the whole, and I get why they keep animated shows going for so long, because the actors, it doesn't matter, the characters don't age. Like the actors can still do the voices and everything, and that's fine. But yeah, the first SpongeBob SquarePants movie, I love it. I really, really enjoy it. I give it a very sturdy 8 out of 10. It's a great film. It's one of my favorite films from 2004. 2004 is a weirdly good year for films. Like I was just thinking about it, and there's some really good films from 2004. Like Shaun of the Dead, which we covered last year. That would be now. Like Shaun of the Dead is one of the best. Yeah. So yeah, go listen. We did a Edgar Wright double bill last year, where we talked about Edgar Wright's filmography, and we're very positive about most of it. Well, on the whole, we're generally pretty positive about it. But yeah, also in 2004, we had Spider-Man 2, which is, I don't care, fucking great film. The Incredibles, another great film. Anchorman, I don't care. I really like Anchorman. I think Anchorman's really great. Yeah, SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Team America, which I really like. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Mysterious Skin, like really Kung Fu Hustle, Shrek 2, like very, very good films from 2004. It just sort of never gets brought up as like a particularly amazing year of films for a lot of people. But yeah, I give the first SpongeBob movie an 8 out of 10. I really like it.
Yeah, I respect that. It's a 10 for me. like it is one of my favorite films we've covered on this podcast. I'm not even a big like SpongeBob series guy. Like I like it. I always sort of loved it, but I don't own anything SpongeBob related. Like I wasn't like a super fan.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
This film specifically, like I've watched this film probably more than I've watched individual episodes of SpongeBob the show.
Oh yeah, no, fair enough.
Like I've watched this film so many times because I love it. And like it reminds me of like friendships that I had as a kid because it is like a friendship. And you sort of put yourself within that character and you go like, oh yeah, like oh yeah, trying to be men, and like when you're like 9 or 8 years old, that's what you associate with. Because really, although he's a man, SpongeBob's a child. Like
yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I really quite liked it. I like that he can drive a burger, but not a boat. But no, I mean, I love the film. 10 out of 10. And to transition into the second film, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, which came out in, was it 2019?
No, 2015, I think.
2015. No, not 2019. I was
thinking of Sponge on the Run.
Whoa. No, yeah, I was thinking of Sponge on the Run.
Yeah. I had seen it. Yeah, I remember seeing the marketing material for this film.
Yeah, me too. I actually watched it around the time it came out because we had Foxtel at the time, 2015.
Mm,
and eventually it just came on to like Nickelodeon movies.
yeah.
Oh my! I kind of like it. It's like as weird as it is. I like the story, but not as a SpongeBob movie. If
Yeah,
that
it
makes any
doesn't really.
sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work as a sponge. It's not like it's really an episode of the TV show extended to 90 minutes. It's more. It's a bit bigger than that.
Like
There's
the
like some
main
live
villain
action
is
stuff.
some pirate that actually opens up a burger restaurant that
Yeah, played by
like
Antonio Banderas, who I really like Antonio Banderas as an
yeah,
actor.
absolutely.
Because I mean, I feel like a lot. Although I will be honest, all I could really think about while watching this film, whenever he was on screen, was it's just Puss in Boots. Like all I could hear was just Puss in Boots. I was like, and I'm like, why is like that's I know because I think that's his best role. I think he's fantastic as Puss in Boots, but that was just all I was thinking while watching. As like it's just Puss in Boots. But I really like
Yeah.
Antonio Banderas in general. Again, all the cast they all do a really solid job. I don't like this film as much, but to be
No,
fair, I
not
don't think
nearly as much.
many.
But I don't like.
I thought it was quite watchable though. I thought there were some decent moments.
Yeah, it's like a
I
light
thought
hour and a half. Like it's.
yeah, it's a you
I
can
don't.
pop it on and you won't have a problem watching it. Like it's not a bad film or anything. It's like, but it's also not a film that I'm like, oh, I have to watch that again. You know, you might catch it on TV and be like, I'll just watch this. Why not? Like, it's gonna be
I
it's
hate.
fine. You know.
I hate animation films, and I know SpongeBob was primarily a targeted show, but like it deals with a lot of themes, especially the first film that I think you can really enjoy at any age. But the second film is a kids movie. It's absolutely a kids movie. I
It
don't
is
think that
yes,
I hate
yeah,
calling animation films like but this is a kids movie. It's like
yeah.
Coco Melon.
I
It's like
think there are
soft and bubbly.
yeah,
And...
yeah. I think that yeah, like look, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, because I don't say like animation is not like exclusively for kids. I like would never say that, but it's like there are definitely animated films that are for kids, and this is more like Sponge. The first movie, it is like kids can enjoy it, and I think it is definitely aimed at a kid audience, but it does feel like it is a bit more universal. Whereas I think the two sequels are kind of like this is for kids. Like these are like parents probably aren't gonna like these films that much. They're just gonna pop them on to distract their kids for 90 minutes. Um,
Yeah,
but I think it's again it's not a bad film or anything. I didn't dislike watching it. Like I had no problems watching the film.
and it's got funny bits like Matt Berry being like a celestial
Ah,
dolphin is
I
really
I
funny.
love Matt Berry. I'm a big Matt Berry fan. I was watching this. I'm like, no way, it's Matt Berry. Like he's just again.
Yeah.
I don't know
You
if his.
devious
I guess this is,
bastard. um,
I will say this. I don't know if his voice. This is actually more for the third film. I don't know if his voice works in the character design. I mean, more for the third film. I think it works because the dolphin is like it's just a dolphin. Like
yeah,
that's it is just a dolphin, so it's like it doesn't. I'm like kind of like okay, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. But in the third film, it's like his voice doesn't work coming out of that character design. And I like Matt Berry, but that doesn't work at all, guys. Like, can we not um, which is not his fault. I think he still gives a good performance,
yeah,
but it's it's again it's that classic thing of we've got an actor in who's not a voice actor and their voice doesn't fit the character design, which is just a plague on animation as a whole, and I genuinely have like serious issues with that.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean all the again, you can't go wrong with Tom Kenny in the role of SpongeBob or Clancy Brown or any of them really. They all do a solid job. It's a very enjoyable watchable film. Um, how did you feel about the stuff where it sort of goes like a bit the 3D animation where they're on like land and
yeah. On
they're
land, I mean, I think it's fine. But it's
hmm
incredibly jarring. Like it's so, but it's also that's the part of the film in the animation that dates it to me. Because I watch that, I can
Yeah.
watch that and know that that's straight out of 2015.
Yeah, no, definitely. It definitely, like, yeah, dates it slightly, because it's like, oh, like, again, it's not bad, but it is like, huh, this could look a lot better than it does. Um,
Yeah, I think when you change the animation style in the middle of a film and the way the individual characters look, I also
yeah.
didn't like the way they looked in under the water, to be honest, in this film. They just look too
Oh, okay.
soft and too well, I mean,
Mm.
like it's not too
Like,
bad
they had
in
very
this film.
pronounced,
In the
yeah,
third film it's awful. In this film they
yeah,
just it seems incredibly quite bright and poppy, and I understand it's appealing to a
yeah.
young audience. Um
Hmm.
but like again, SpongeBob, the point of SpongeBob was that it was like yeah, it was kids, but it was like semi real, like you could see like dust or scuff marks on SpongeBob. It wasn't rounded,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that
No, I
makes
get what
sense.
you're saying. Yeah, no, no, no. I
It was
completely,
a
I
bit
get
more
what you're
earthy.
saying. Yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying. And I agree with that actually. I think that on the whole, yeah, with the 2D animation, you do sort of get a sense of, like, I don't know, just the way the characters looks better. Like, with sort of um other animation, it does feel a bit like, I don't know, the angles and the way, like, it looks a bit more sharp and a bit more just like, it's more unique. Whereas with the way it looks in other places, it's kind of like, well, it just looks very, yeah, soft, as you say, and it doesn't pop nearly as much. It sort of all sort of becomes sort of one. Uh, it's not as not as unique or anything, which is uh yeah, dis a bit disappointing. But for me, honestly, probably my favorite stuff was the stuff when they're on the land. Not necessarily because of the animation, which I didn't massively love, but I just thought there was some really fun stuff there. I did like that Sandy Cheeks just became like a literal squirrel. Like, she doesn't
Yeah, I
become
like
just.
that.
I thought that was a nice touch because it does, yeah. Um, but I also thought there was some fun stuff in there. Um, but yeah, again, that was sort of the stuff that I really like, not really enjoyed. Like, I enjoyed more than the rest. And again, it wasn't a bad film, and I didn't mind watching it. It just sort of felt to me like, well, okay. It kind of almost felt like to me they put all their time into making sort of that sequence work. That where they sort of were like, okay, this is what we want to do. We've got to make sure this looks good, and we've got to put all this effort into this. That the rest of the film, because everything sort of leading up to that, I was kind of less engaged with. And like, there's bits where he's talking to some like birds or seagulls, rather, I guess, to be specific. And I didn't love that. Oh, what did you think of the ending where he becomes the pirate who's singing the theme song?
I mean, it's like a cute little nod, but like, is it canon? Is it like I don't really care for like law breaking SpongeBob things, but I think it's cute. Like it's fun. It's like a fun kids film, but and it's fun to tie it back into that. But to me, that's the only thing that, but other than using the characters and the world, it's the only thing that
Mm.
really relates to SpongeBob, like outside of this film. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
thought it
they
was a
use the
very
SpongeBob
odd.
IP, but
Yeah.
it's not a SpongeBob story. Like, and I know that weirdly like elitist about what a SpongeBob story is, but like this film, realistically, it's a six, like a five and a half.
Yeah. I give it a very a generous score, I think, but I give it a 7. Again, I had no problems watching it. I just sort of thought, like, it's fine, but I also have no
Look,
massive
yeah,
desire to watch it
my
again.
score is heavily influenced by how much I loved the first film.
That is true. Yeah, you are. I mean, you gave it a 10.
I have a
It's
bias.
one of the highest rated film. Like, what else have you given a 10 on this podcast? Shaun of the Dead, you
Shaun
gave a
of the
10
Dead,
to.
500 Days of Summer, I think.
Did you give a 10 out of 10 to Hot Fuzz?
I would have. That's my favorite of the trilogy.
Yeah. Which also, I
I
think the
think
Hot
I
Fuzz is the
also
highest
gave
rated film I've.
a 10 out of 10 to The Truman Show because it's my favorite.
Truman Show as well, yeah. Did you give. I feel like you gave a couple of the Spider-Man. Like, did you give Spider-Man 2 a 10 or Into the Spider-Verse a 10?
Yeah, I would have. I would have given Spider-Man. Honestly, I probably could have given the entire trilogy a 10. And like the third film a 9. But yeah, I definitely gave 2 a 10, and I gave. I don't know. I'm not a 10 slut. Like,
No, I don't
like
give
my,
out
my
10s that
my
often.
10s mean things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm not, I'm not making judgment. I've given, like, if I was to look, there's maybe like 50 something films that I would give a 10
Yeah.
out of 10 to. Like, it's
Yeah.
not many, and a lot of those probably would go down if I watch them again. Because some of them I watched when I was like getting into films, and that's just when you like a lot of the stuff you watch. But like,
Yeah, and you're heavily influenced by
I know
what
people
you're
who
watching.
give like lots of 10 out of 10s in a year, and I'm like, no, that like 10 out of 10 needs to mean something, you know? Like, I can't just give it out, you know? Like, I'm happy to give out 8s and 9s and 7s and everything, but it's like, if I'm gonna give out a 10, it needs to be like the best film. Like, I've only given only one film from this decade so far I would give a 10 out of 10 to. But yeah, we move on to the final film we're talking about, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, which I watched literally just recording.
I'm sorry you
And
had to go through that.
well, the only real thing I knew about this film was that Keanu Reeves is in it. I thought
Yeah,
like, oh,
he's a
he's just gonna be in
freaking
it.
like tumbleweed.
I thought like he's gonna be in the film for a little bit, but like he's got a pretty decently large supporting role. Like he's actually in the film a bit more than I was expecting, to be completely honest. Like he's actually not. I thought, oh, it's fun. We'll get Keanu Reeves in because everybody loves Keanu Reeves, but like he's actually
Yeah, I
in
was
it
like,
a
I thought that
decent
he would
amount.
just have his Hasselhoff moment, sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, this is the weakest of the three. Again, I didn't dislike it, but it's like the second film, but even more so. Like, I genuinely can't picture myself being like, yeah, I want to watch that again. Like, even though I did like it, I didn't dislike the film. I had no problems watching it. I sort of felt like, okay, this is perfectly fine, but I can't say that I was particularly blown away by it. And I think honestly, SpongeBob SquarePants, like, because they're still making the TV show, from my understanding, like they're still releasing new episodes of the show.
Insane.
And I think at this point they should probably call it quits. I don't know how popular SpongeBob is anymore. Like, I don't really know many people who watch it, so I've got no idea like how popular the show is anymore, because I don't keep up to date with it. But it's like, I can't imagine people love it as much. I guess because merchandising and stuff, it's probably doing. So there's a 15th season
Yeah,
being
look at
made.
like at least SeaWorld here in Australia is just like it's all it is like SpongeBob like stuff.
Yeah,
It
and
it
I'm like,
feels it's such like an appealing IP to young kids, and I understand that, but the third film specifically is like I thought the second film appealed to this is infant shit. Like this is playing in a preschool. I'm not. Yeah, I have mad beef with this film.
yeah. I mean, this was one of the 20 few films in 2020 that actually came out. Like 2020, it's crazy to me how I'm just looking at films I've seen from various years, and I've only seen about like 30 something films from 2020, and other years I've seen like 50 and above. I've seen some years I've seen like 70 plus films from 2020. I've seen like 35 or something films. Like, there's not a lot from 2020 that I've really seen, because just films didn't come out in 2020. Like, it's crazy. I'm just looking, and it's such a meager selection of films. It's like, God, these
Do we
films.
also not talk about how freaking ugly this film looks.
I
What
thought
is it?
I didn't mind it took me a while to get used to it because I was like, what? Because it's like this is not what I was expecting, and I don't know how I feel about it. But over the course of the film, I did sort of get into it. I was like, yeah, this look good, but also like, fuck, we couldn't have just
Like
done
it
like a. I don't know. I kind of feel like we could have just done a 2D animated film.
normal animated film.
Like
Like this,
this is an interesting choice.
you know what? This film, I've seen this happen with a franchise before, where it starts just getting bubblier and more kiddie and bubblier and more kiddie until ultimately it becomes like genuinely insufferable. And that's Hotel Transylvania. And this is the exact
I've
same
only
thing.
seen the first
It's
one of those.
oh no, but they just get like really grossly over animated, overdone, too bubbly, too poppy, and it's all just like the funniest joke is like they're dancing around in their underwear, and it's like, oh my god, I don't know. I know it's not for me. This film isn't for me, and I understand
Yeah.
that. Doesn't stop me from giving it like a 3.
Well, that's
Like,
the thing, right? It's yeah, just because you're not the tar. Okay, a prime example is I've covered the 50 Shades of Grey films on this podcast, and I know
yeah,
I am not the target audience for those films. It does not mean that I can't criticize them for being poorly made, poorly written, poorly acted, poorly directed. Everything about those films is fucking dreadful. Like I can criticize a film even if it's not made for me, you know? I think like
yeah, yeah,
and I understand that there are certain films that will obviously appeal to like certain groups of people more than me, and I completely respect that, and I have no qualms with that. Like, and I get that not every film is going to be made for me, but but when I put a number on a film and I review a film and I talk about a film, it is purely based upon my opinion, and I know that like if a film is about a certain like I don't want this to get like political or anything, but like if a film's made in a certain way about made about a certain group of people, then I don't and like
yeah,
it doesn't appeal to me and I don't connect to it. That's not a problem with the film, really. Like it's telling a story that like I might find interesting, but I can't connect with it in the same way a different someone else would. If you are in that group,
yeah,
if you are
yeah.
that,
No,
which is
absolutely.
fine. And I there's nothing wrong with that, and I understand there
I
are
mean,
films that I don't enjoy as much, but
like a great example is something like I don't know. There might be. I don't really put myself in the shoes of the protagonist in Pretty Woman. Do you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't connect with it in the same way that someone else. Like it Pretty Woman isn't the greatest example. I don't know many films that like. I have an older sister and like she loves the Bad Mums films, and she's a young mother herself, and she like
Mm,
that's why she likes it so much. She can like relate, and it's like funny and relatable and expression.
yeah,
Whereas like me, more so something like I would relate more to something like the In-Betweeners, the IT, like it comes down
yeah,
to
yeah,
who you are, like, and so what you're saying makes sense, except like no one's a sponge, like, little kids,
yeah.
yeah,
It's target. Yeah, it's I am not part of the target audience. Like
yeah,
there's again. I'm not saying every film has to be made for everyone to enjoy because that would just become boring. I'm fully and completely fine with films being made for demographics that are not like demographics that I fit into. That's fine. It does just mean though that there are films that I might not like as much as other people because I am not part of said demographic. Which is fine. Again, that's
yeah.
that's completely
At the end of
fine.
the day,
And
that's life. Yeah,
and so no, I get what you're saying. Like this as the SpongeBob films go on, they do sort of like okay, this is for kids. Like this is really firmly a kids film. And you could argue the first film is, but I say it's a bit more expansive than that. Like there are some films where it's like, yeah, kids can enjoy them and they are aimed at kids generally, but they are not exclusively aimed at kids. Like I see stuff like fucking Coco Melon or like Baby Shark or whatever. Like that is aimed at a very young
kids
audience,
content. Yeah,
and I guarantee if I watch those things, I would hate them and think they're terrible. because like watching them, I would be like, why am I watching this? This is terrible. Or Paw Patrol movies would be the same
Sorry,
thing. But I know they're aimed at a younger demographic, and that's fine. And I also probably, but like, there are animated films that like go beyond just being for kids that just are just great movies. There are some movies that are like animated movies that they're great kids movies, and there are some anime movies that are just great movies in general. There's sort of two different sort of blocks of animation. Some that are like great for kids, and some that are just great in general.
Yeah, I fully do, but I'll be honest here, I really don't have much. Like, I just feel like the story, like outside of the animation, obviously the cast very quickly on this last film,
Yeah.
quite big to be honest, but there's Snoop Dogg's in this film, like.
Yeah, I did not know Snoop Dogg was in this film. I knew Keanu Reeves was in it, and that's it. I didn't know there were going to be other like celebrity cameos.
Yeah, yeah, and I like. It doesn't mean that it'll have a strong narrative, and I feel like it doesn't. I don't care for it. I really can't engage with the film properly. I feel like because of, to be honest, my own things holding me back about the animation and like the degradation of the characters, and yeah, I just sort of it's a 3, like, and that's a 3 from me.
Oh,
I don't think it's a 3
yeah,
overall, but I just.
For you, I mean, ratings are purely subjective. Like it's a
this
subjective
is the most
thing.
subjective rating besides Spider-Man: Far From Home. That film can die in hell.
Oh my god! Seriously, go if you haven't heard it, go listen to our Spider-Man episodes because Harry goes in. I think there was a bit where I said, Harry, just say your piece, and I just sort of stepped away and just listened
like
to you go on
minutes.
about how much you hated Far From Home, and I had to really truncate it because you did go on for a bit. From my memory, I was like, I'm gonna
and like
have
tangents.
to
Me and Barney had it. Well, it's because it's and every time I feel like we do any trilogy or like I always bring up Spider-Man: Far From Home, and I just
you were so. I remember because we were talking
I'm
about before we
quite
even did
passionate
Spider-Man.
about that film.
Yeah, before we even covered Spider-Man, really, I feel like we must have talked about it, and you had made it clear you weren't a fan. And I was like, oh well, I'm looking forward to us covering Spider-Man because we're gonna have an interesting discussion when we get to the
that
Tom
was one
Holland
of
one.
our stronger episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like. Yeah, again, go listen to the Spider-Man episodes. They're a really good two-parter, I think. Go listen to every episode, but like specifically the Spider-Man one because I think it's a really good, and the Edgar Wright episodes actually. I think those are really strong episodes.
Yeah.
And actually the first Planet and the Planet of the Apes episodes we did recently, the first one we just were losing our fucking minds, like because we talked about the first film which we all really loved, and then we just went on we just started to slowly just lose it as we were talking about the terrible sequels. Yeah, I give this one this SpongeBob Sponge on the Run again very exceedingly generous rating. I give it a 7, but it's kind of just like because it's very disposable. Honestly, a lot of films are kind of just 7 out of 10 for me. Like it's very disposable, watchable. I didn't have many major qualms with it, but I also could not tell you much about it now, and I watched it like less than 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we are tying this into the release of the Sandy Cheeks movie, Saving Bikini Bottom, a Sandy Cheeks movie. The film somehow leaked online, and the entire film was up on Twitter or X, as people now call it. So people have seen this movie. I have not seen it because I didn't know. So we'll talk about it in the review of the year episode. When we Yeah, I don't know. It looks fine, but it doesn't, particularly stand out to me. But I think that's pretty much it, Harry.
Yeah, I think that's us.
Yeah. So, thank you all for listening.
If you're listening to this, just quickly, if you're listening to this and you go, I'm not going to watch this, and you have not seen SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie, and you're like, I'm not going to watch it, and it's a kid's film, watch it. It'll be like the funniest comedy you'll watch this year, trust me. Like, great film. So,
yeah. So, yeah. Thank you to Harry for joining me for this week's episode, for listening. I would like to say that at the time of recording, I have just launched and this may age very poorly, and it may not be here when you listen back to this, but I've launched a Patreon page that if you wish to support the show monetarily, please feel free to pledge. There'll be some extra stuff. You'll be able to vote in polls. So if there's like a week where I don't have an episode planned, you can vote in that, and we can pick stuff to do. We might record bonus stuff that will go out there. It's sort of so just go to patreon.com/@the-movies-with-William-Fletcher. Very clunky, I know, but whatever, that's fine. So yeah, feel free to check that out. And yeah, go listen to all the last episodes. Last week we covered Deadpool. So yeah, go listen to that. That was a pretty good, decent one. Harry's done a lot of episodes now. You've got there's like 150 something episodes. So you've got a real choice
portfolio
of episodes. So just like you will find something to like, I am sure.
It's quite the catalog.
Yeah, so I hope that you have enjoyed this week's episode, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.